we'll start with a quick introduction. So if each of you can very quickly please introduce yourself and what your organization does in less than 30 seconds, that would be helpful. And this is the agenda that we have got. So we're already at 3:35, but that's okay. We'll have a very quick introduction of who is there on the call. And we'll spend about 15-20 minutes with Tejasvi and Pankaj on some specific questions. And then we can get into a deeper discussion with everyone. And obviously, there is larger collective intelligence here on this topic. So please exchange your views, ideas, and we can educate ourselves better on this and how we can really disrupt the transportation and logistics industry in India. So that's the intent. Thanks again for everyone for joining this discussion. Before we get into the introductions, I just want to run by a few things to note. So can you go to the next slide, please, Aniket? We'll just quickly run by some rules so that everyone is aware. We can come to the introductions in a bit. Can you go to the next slide, Aniket? Yeah. So just a few things. One is here, please do keep your video on. I think all of us are on video, so thanks for that. And if you can please be on mute when you don't speak, that would be helpful. Of late, what I've noticed is there are a lot of power cuts in Bangalore. So if you don't see me, I think most likely I would have lost power and I will join back. Otherwise, your story will be recording the session and they will publish an article based on this discussion. So if you have any concerns around that, please do write to Aniket. And that's about it. And there will be an invitation for all of us to be on a Slack channel. So please do accept that so that we can continue this discussion beyond this 90-minute session. So with that, I'll stop here. And if we can have a quick introduction, that would be helpful. Who wants to go first? Anup, do you want to go first?
We could just go by that. If you just go back to the previous slide, we can go by that. I think then Akash starts off and then I can get in.
Okay, sure.
Go by
okay. Yeah. Akash, do you want to go?
Yeah, hi. Hey guys, I'm Akash. I'm one of the co-founder at MoveNsync, and we are trying to solve an office commute problem before COVID hits, and probably we are looking at the larger arena of solving problem in the enterprise industrial productivity space. Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm Anup. I'm the CTO at Redbus. We are largely an online travel portal for aggregating buses across about 6 countries now. And very recently, we kind of got into the carpooling space. It's about 6-7 months into this thing, where I think Kashyap is helping us with from the routing aspects and the snap to route aspects as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dinesh Dixit. I'm the Vice President leading all of activities for LodgeNext in US and Europe. And we are primarily a transportation automation platform, which allows us to make things and people move in a much faster, better, and cheaper manner. So we have presence across 40 different countries, a good user base across 80 other countries, and we're primarily focused on solving the transportation automation needs of our clients across different industries like e-commerce, courier express parcel, quick service restaurants, and so on and so forth. And it's a real pleasure to be talking to all of you. Thank you.
Gaurav, you're on mute.
Sorry, thanks for that. So hey guys, I'm Gaurav, one of the co-founders of Next Billion AI. So we are very tailored and customized mapping solutions for companies that are in transportation, logistics, e-commerce. Our vision is basically for everyone that operates in this space. I'm sure all of us can feel the pain of how important location and everything around location is for our businesses. We believe there's a need for essentially opening the hood. So far, all solutions have been sort of like Windows for maps. We want to see if we can build the Linux for maps. So building very tailored solutions across the globe, very tailored for, say, last mile logistics, freight, ride hailing, food delivery, etc. So yeah, so that's quickly about us.
Thanks, Gaurav. Do we have Gautam or do we have Gautam from Link? No. So next is we have Jaggi. Hi, Jaggi.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Can you all hear me? All
Yeah,
right.
we can hear you, Jaggi.
All right, great. Hey,
Yes.
my name is Jaggi Iyengar. I'm the CEO of Yakit. We are a B2C shipping solution. How do you make B2C shipping from a marketplace to buyers worldwide, international shipping, easy? So think of us as a software layer between providers like DHL, FedEx, and so on, and marketplaces like Etsy. We just launched Etsy from India. Think of about 500,000 merchants spread all over India wanting to ship and provide and getting the same level of logistics as Amazon. We say Amazon logistics for all. So how do they do that? How do they get the low cost? How do they ship? How do they route? So we do all that in software. So that's what we do, and we are using AWS as much as we can to provide the kind of solutions that our customers want. That's about it on my side.
Jaggi. I see Gautam also. Gautam, can you hear us? Can you quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Gautam here. Sorry for the delay, but I had some trouble connecting to the group. I would like to introduce myself as Gautam. I'm the CTO of Link Logistics. At Link, we are primarily focused on solving hyperlocal delivery through technology and data. The effectiveness of hyperlocal delivery actually was felt especially during this lockdown period, wherein where various essential goods were being delivered both to the businesses and to the end consumers through hyperlocal delivery. So to make this process seamless, so apart from providing logistics as a service, we have partnered with various FMCG companies and have started offering value-added services like distribution as a service in certain metro cities, and that paved off very well for us. Holistically, our company, we primarily operate in the mobile-only mode, and our mode of distribution has been primarily through trucks and bikes. If you are in Chennai or Hyderabad, I think you should have seen our trucks flying on the roads. We are trying to kind of currently open up like any hyper-local delivery companies do, right? We are trying to open up other channels so that websites and other stuff, so that it can help in our business growth. That's primarily our focus right now. We have been using AWS for most of our infrastructure needs, and yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Gautam. Next is Kashyap.
Hey guys, this is Kashyap. I'm founder of Hypertrack. It is 3 a.m. for me, so I will be slurring my words. So we are the easiest way to add live location for logistics, field force, and ride-sharing apps around the world. So pretty much in every corner of the world, we have users who use Hypertrack. It's an API, it's a developer-driven platform. And the primary reason that users use Hypertrack is to get visibility, to drive productivity, and to deliver a better end customer experience. A lot of friends on this panel, and users as well. Thanks, Anup, for the our pool in Redbus, in the main app of Redbus, uses Hypertrack. Looking forward to working with many more of you to help you drive operations efficiency and customer experience using live location.
Kashyap. I think next is Naveen.
Hey, very good afternoon to everyone. Apologies, I'm a little under the weather today. Trying my best. I'll try to be active, but if I drop out, guys, apologize for that. So I'm co-founder and CTO for Yulu, and we are using technology to solve the urban mobility problem, and focus being first mile and last mile connectivity. Yes, our business is very much dependent on technology, because if we had to operate this way we are operating now, probably 2 decades or 3 decades back, it was next to impossible. But with the advancement of IoT devices and the processing power and the data storage, we are able to do what we are doing now. And we have to work with government policies, infrastructure, charging infrastructure to make our business thrive. Thanks all.
Thanks, Naveen. Pankaj, I think you're next. Pankaj, can you hear us? Pankaj Rasbooth.
Yes, sorry, there was Pankaj Kankar, so I thought he was going to be going next. Hey guys,
Is he on the sorry,
I wasn't sure.
Okay.
Is
was not
Pankaj
sure.
Kankar on the call?
No, guys, he's not. He had to drop out because of a board meeting.
Okay. Okay, so in that case, I'll go. Hey guys, Pankaj Rasbooth. I'm co-founder and CTO at ZenDrive. This is a 7-year-old startup that me and my co-founder Jonathan started with a mission of making roads safer through data and analytics. And we are essentially the largest such platform out there that uses mobile sensors and mobile data analytics for understanding driving behavior, understanding the risk, and catering that information back to a variety of industries. Today, we work with customers in insurance space. We work with customers in consumer applications, whether those are related to family safety and so on. And we also work very actively with OEMs as well in providing the safety solutions. Like I mentioned, we are the largest such platform out there. We have, over the years, we have collected over 185 billion miles of data, seen hundreds of thousands of real-world collisions, and sort of really specialize in analyzing that. So that's about us.
Thank you, Pankaj. I think next is Prashant.
Yes, hi, I'm Prashant. I'm one of the co-founders of Post. ClickPost is a logistics management platform for e-commerce companies. We help e-commerce companies provide the best customer experience by connecting them with the logistics partners through APIs. We track their shipments, provide end users with the notifications. Currently, we are integrated with 138 courier partners in India and Middle East. We went live in Middle East in some time back, and growing very fast.
Prashant. I think next is Santosh.
Good afternoon, guys. I'm Santosh. I'm the CTO of Blowhorn. It's really good to connect to all of you today. I think last 4 months we've had very less conferences. I think it's good to be connected on this forum. Blowhorn started as a full stack logistics company. By full stack, we mean we cater to different layers of the logistics, primarily transportation, fulfillment, and the orchestration, which is in terms of movement. So our intent was, if you want to move anything from 1 gram to 1 ton anywhere in India in the same day, we want to sort of achieve that. And we started off with the marketplace model, moved on to the B2B space, and then doing more integrations with carriers and all of that. It's nice to be here, listening to the wisdom of all the people around. Yeah, thank you.
Prashant. Next I see is Tejasvi, if I'm not mistaken. Tejasvi, want to go next?
Sriram not around? I think Sriram is around.
Oh, Sriram is around. Sorry, I missed that. After Santosh, Sriram, you want to go next? Yeah.
So hi guys. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
This is Sriram from Roundtable. So we are in the daily office commute space. We provide the software SaaS software piece for planning as well as the fulfillment engine where we bring our own fleet of cabs sourced through a marketplace. That's basically what we are. Hello.
Could hear you. Thank you for that.
Hello, everybody. Hope I'm audible. I'm head of engineering at Blackbuck. Our constant endeavor is to bring trucking operations online. Primarily, we do two marketplace businesses, one on services side, trucker services side, and other one on freight. We are trying to connect two different distinct offline players, trying to bring them online from tier 2, tier 3 cities of the country and bringing them into a digital platform.
Hey, thank you, Tejasvi. Did I miss anyone else? Do we have Vaibhav or Varun on the call?
Yeah, hi everybody. This is Varun here. I'm the CTO and co-founder at Bounce. Bounce is a dockless scooter sharing platform. We are tackling the problem of mobility. We are present in Hyderabad and Bangalore. The mission is to make mobility a fundamental right for everyone. I see a lot of friends here. We worked closely with a lot of you folks and partnered with in terms of business with a lot of you folks as well. So yeah, I'm really glad to be here. Looking forward to the session.
If I've not missed anyone else, we can get started. I just have a few initial questions to Pankaj and to Tejasvi, and then I'll open this up to all of us for a larger discussion. Pankaj, in these current times, there has been a lot of talk about safety, everyone wearing masks and so on. So how do you see the need for safety evolving both for personal transportation as well as for goods? What are your thoughts around this?
Sure. As I mentioned, ZenDrive was founded with a mission of making roads safer. And safety. All of us, when we just kicked off this conversation, everybody was sort of talking about how life has changed for all of us and how sort of safety has become the most important thing, most the top of mind kind of thing. And certainly it's about immediately about coronavirus and about health and so on. But it really permeates in some ways everything else that happens, right? If I'm going to share a cab with someone, then I'm worried about safety. If I'm worried about what the driver is doing. In general, sort of, that translates into a whole variety of things, just things related to location. However, if my kids are driving, how are they driving on the road? Are they being safe? Is my family safe? If I have employees on the road, are they being safe, and so on. And so sort of, safety has become this top of a mind thing. And in some ways, sort of, the combination of the need for safety and how safety and the peace of mind is essential for sort of business value that it drives also becomes something really important. I'm pretty sure sort of people here who are all on the call, some of you are running sort of specific businesses that are transporting people or goods and so on. Things related to safety are top of your mind. So at ZenDrive, sort of when the solutions that we focus on are really all about transportation safety. We provide solutions that are related to understanding how drivers are driving on the road, what kind of behaviors are they exhibiting. Are those behaviors, are those maneuvers essentially exposing to them to certain kind of risks for collisions, whether these are distracted driving or being aggressive on the road and so on. In addition to that, things like so one is understanding where the risk is originating from, but then there is also the mitigation of the risk, which is really about if there is a collision, if there is an unfortunate incident on the road, then how do you detect it? How do you detect it with very high accuracy? And then do notifications for roadside assistance, emergency response, and so on, so that help can be provided on the way. And then connecting it with insurance pieces, because ultimately that's where eventually when a collision happens, the money transaction happens. So that we see what we are seeing right now, interestingly, for the last 3 months in the market is this amorphous concept around safety is becoming spreading into all of these domains. And we are seeing a much bigger, deeper need for road safety kind of solutions as well. And players, for example, even in like online safety and cyber safety and so on, are also jumping into the road and the location-based safety kind of situations as well. So I just wanted to say a few things about that, and then would love to hear maybe at the later part of this conversation from people here about how they are seeing things related to safety as becoming important for their own businesses as this pandemic situation is evolving.
Sure, thanks for that, Pankaj. That was really helpful, and definitely I want to revisit this conversation. Especially Anup had a couple of points around it. Let me revisit this. I just have a quick question to Tejaswi. So Tejaswi, you mentioned about there are it's a very unorganized industry in India, right? So this is about, we are talking about 10 to 15 lakh fleet owners who are spread across India, about 30 to 40 lakh trucks, if not more. And some of the players like Ashok Leyland have disrupted this. Some of them are still in the process of disruption. So what do you think are the current challenges today? Is it about the demand and availability going down due to the recent COVID times, or is it a much bigger problem in terms of predicting when a truck will leave from a place and reach another place? What do you think are the current challenges the industry is facing today?
Good question. The dynamics of this industry has been changing a bit. I'll tell you where. For example, previously, pre-COVID scenario, when situation was normal, people used to fly on regular routes. For example, a person who is doing, let's say, Karnal to Kandla, he would probably do the same set of routes. Primarily, people, group of customers, when he gets it, and he flies that. So during COVID, what we have seen is because of the lack of availability of demand, and with the advent of saying, like for us specifically for BlackBuck, since we are trying to bring them online, there were last year, because of the government mandates and so on and so forth, there are a bunch of supply partners went online. So when they went online, they were ready to transact much more digitally. Previously, they used to do it a lot through their offline channels. They started coming onto the platform much more, and hence they started exploring available orders or available demand for their supply partners for their trucks in online. So, but it has created some amount of disruption. Though the disruption is, though it was in a way very well-oiled machinery where you would know where the trucks are going, and hence you could have predicted your demand and supply. And now, because of the lack of demand, truckers explored little more things, right? They started exploring different types of routes. When they explore different types of routes, your demand pockets went away. So because unlike, let's say, on an hyperlocal delivery, you are moving around smaller bits of area, right? Let's say Koramangala to let's say Indiranagar. Here, the one whole journey takes like 6 to 7 days, or Karnal to Kandla takes 3 days. So the truck availability will become a concern if a person changes the route. So that's how we say. So from Blackbuck's perspective, it's a very tricky area in that, right? We provide value to, let's say, fleet owners by giving them a suite of services. Services can be, let's say, tracking. Services can be giving them fuel capability, giving them insurance, and so on and so forth. Where we get supply onto onto our platform. Whereas for the freight business, the customers who want trucked their tonnage to be moved from A to B, there is a whole lot of supply partners whom they can engage with. Right now, current situation, it's though supply partner have certain number of reduced demand, that hasn't got the margin to come down because of the disruptions with the general movement of the trucks are concerned. So that's where we are juggling. We are trying to find a balance, and we are providing them a different set of platform opportunities where they can come and get value out of us.
Yes, I just have one final question to Pankaj before we start with the larger team. So Pankaj, you mentioned about the insurance. So can you talk a little bit more about it? What is the challenge that the insurance is facing today, and how can some of this safety standards help the insurance industry evolve in India much better? Is it currently being user driven, or is there a way to disrupt the insurance industry given the safety standards that you spoke about?
Sure, absolutely. That's a very interesting topic, and certainly COVID is playing an important role in that. And I'll talk a little bit about what we are observing in sort of the more developed markets like in US and Europe, and then sort of how it applies to India as well. So it's actually sort of on the consumer side of things, it's really driven by the end customer's need to save money. There are two things that everybody has to buy insurance if they are driving a vehicle, right? But for now, most people are driving very little, and so they are questioning, hey, if I am driving only 20% of what I used to drive, why am I paying so much for my insurance? Can I reduce my insurance costs? And at the same time, for insurers, this puts a downward pressure, because for most of them, the insurance typically has been a 3 to 5% margin business, and now if they have to reduce costs further because there is a downward pricing pressure, then it makes it very difficult for them. And so that's where what we are seeing is a very significantly increased demands for usage-based insurance, or behavior-based insurance. So depending upon how much I drive or how I drive, price me for my insurance. Otherwise, I don't want to pay for, if my car is just sitting at the home. And that's a sort of, capability. The technology for this has been around for a while. Zentrive plays a big role in that space as well. But with COVID, with sort of, changes in the driving patterns and behavioral patterns, we are suddenly seeing an interesting uptick around this. Same applies to, the commercial driving aspects of this also for fleets. We are seeing a lot more fleets in, say, sort of, TNC, the transport network company space, or even in sort of, the last mile delivery kind of space, looking for insurance that is usage based or behavior based, as opposed to sort of, a blanket annual, insurance. And that's a very interesting thing. I think in India, sort of, some of these things are controlled by IRDA. IRDA started off this sandbox for insurance maybe 9 months ago, or a year ago, I would say. But I do expect some of these interesting solutions will come up in India as well, and I would love to hear from people here, sort of who are running the fleet business. How are they thinking about about these possibilities as well. There are other things also on the fleet side that are of interest. Some of the things that we do. If you think about a fleet, and I'm sure one of you guys know far more than I do in that space. But from a driver's perspective, from a fleet owner's perspective, it's really all about the cost of maintenance of the vehicle, the cost of the fuel, and the cost of insurance. Those are the three big line items when you think about expenses. And in some ways, sort of, the mobile telematics solution helps with all of those three, with insurance being through UBI and BPI programs, with fuel, because the driving style or the behavior of driver actually has a significant impact on how much fuel consumption happens. And giving them right kind of nudges to improve their efficiency can go a long way in reducing fuel costs. And then finally, the same thing also has a big impact on the maintenance. Hard braking, acceleration things eventually lead to wear and tear, which leads to more maintenance costs. So again, variety of ways in which in these times where the cost and the efficiency of solutions is far more important, lot of interest in sort of applying telematics and mobile telematics in particular to fleet solutions as well. So those are some of the things that I would say we are seeing in some of the developed markets, and would love to hear from this group here as well, how you guys are thinking about it.
Thank you. So I'll go to the larger team now. So around the initial safety aspects that we spoke about, Anup and Akash, I've got a very specific question for you, and others also. Please do chip in with your answers. So given that what you are doing is directly connected to and is impacting in terms of ride sharing and pooling and so on, how do you see, Anup and Akash, the safety standards evolve, and have you taken any specific measures as of today to ensure that this does not become something which is going to block everyone's minds in terms of doing ride sharing, or you still believe that this is probably far away, about 6 months, 12 months away, and you wouldn't want to get to that point now?
No, probably I'll go first. So if you look at us, right, I mean, there are two aspects of our business. One is the ARPU part of it. It's very similar to what probably Akash is doing, though in a C2C space. But more importantly, from a bus, our primary business, which is a bus, this thing where we are transporting hundreds and thousands of passengers every day. And there, I mean, bus, in our view, is probably having a lot of sense of safety has to be brought into that business as well. Primarily because there is the concern about, is the bus being sanitized? Is that being cleaned? What is the level of safety being maintained? Are the conductors and the drivers being checked? Are they wearing masks? Is sanitizers available? So one of the things which we've done at Redbus is to kind of start off what we call as a Safety Plus program. We actually started off, interestingly, before the COVID started, purely from the perspective of making bus travel more lucrative, to remove any worries which is associated to bus travel in that sense, right? And we started with that, but now that program has kind of evolved into a completely different animal, in the sense that with COVID coming in, the amount of expectations which you expect from the customers before booking their next journey. Now, we don't think that travel is going to get off. It is very important. It is in our genes to travel, right? For whether it's for work or leisure or whatever it is. And bus in India forms a big part of that. So what we've done is 2-3 things. As part of the program, one, we started initially with the operators self-signing up, which was based on certain parameters we gave them. And they were supposed to be maintaining it. Now we are extending that to do a proper audit of safety standards. How do they manage this? What are they doing to ensure that the specific parameters are maintained? And this is getting sent to an external auditor who will audit all the operators who are signing up for this. Today we have about 60-70% of the operators already signed up for this program. And the audit things are starting off, which essentially means that the next time, hopefully once the law gets over, you would have a flag on the site which says that this operator follows the safety standards and this has been certified by so and so auditor. So we are really going down that path. At the same time, if you how things have changed, right? Look, earlier for a bus operator, for a customer, the amenities used to be things like is the guy giving you water bottle? Is he giving you a packet of snacks and stuff like that? That is going to change into things like, oh no, has the driver and conductor be temperature checked? Has the guy, is there a sanitizer on the bus? Is there going to be gloves and masks which is available, right? So we are kind of working with the bus operators. We are working with vendors across the country to kind of provide. Look, at the end of the day, bus is not it's a very thin margin business. So we'll have to kind of help the bus operators make the best buck for the mile they do. So we are working with vendors to kind of organize some of these essentials and at a price which is extremely cheap for the operators, for the bus operators to kind of consume as well and provide to all their customers in that sense, right? The next aspect of it is kind of the customer aspect, right? How do we pass information to them, and how do we kind of get the customer to participate in this entire safety program by either, of course, following certain rules of, you need to be wearing mask, etc., but also giving, silent nudges to them to kind of rate and give us information as to, because at the end of the day, audit and all of that can help us to that extent, because there are, we have a few lakh services which are running every day on our platform. Using technology to get inputs from the customers and trying to organize in such a way that the data which is available today, for example, we have ratings and reviews, we are extending that to include a lot of safety aspects into it, which will help other customers kind of make the right choice of which bus to take, which is more safer, which is perceived more safer and stuff like that. So safety is kind of becoming I think it's going to be a mandatory thing, at least for the foreseeable future. As soon, and just now, I mean, as in when industry started opening up slowly wherever, lockdown is getting lifted. And what we see is that there is that perceived expectation that, a set of norms are being followed. And I think as Redbus, we are doing all we can to kind of drive that. And some of these are getting extended to our pool program as well, where we are trying to figure out, we are even giving indications as to whether your rider or driver is from a red zone or a containment zone in that sense. We are trying to, there is some discussion, Arogya Setu has open source some of the APIs. We are doing some integrations with that to give further inputs as well as to whether your passenger, your driver, your, rider, are they, what is the status? Are they green or whatever that is? So it kind of, we are doing a lot of work in that sense. Akash, probably I think you have the next.
No, Anup, I think you covered most of the things, but I have a slightly different view here. What I can really see, there is a huge fear psychosis. A huge fear psychosis maybe in the goods, it should be fine. But as soon as we are talking about people, if they can avoid traveling, they are avoiding traveling. Unless probably you in the employee transport space, unless you stop their salaries, they will not come to office. So I'm very clear about it. For next 6 months is going to be absolutely crazy, right? And from the very tech perspective, my giving the tech is like you have to be absolutely open about what you can do. So we started this whole. I'm not sure some of you guys must have seen a site called covidhotspots.in. This is what we did over a weekend. Right, got a great traction, everything, but now it has gone for a toss because now there are like 3,000 containment zone in Bangalore. So these things are not going to work. It's not just going to work that somebody coming from the red zone or blue zone or green zone, it is not going to work. So I think it's like, you have to make the strategies every week. You have to be on that. You have to be always calibrating whether it's going to work or not. Just for the Pankaj, just to let you know, right? Pankaj, yeah, I agree. It's a safety, security, everything is there, but I am very clear for next 3 months, insurance, everything, nobody is going to buy insurance, right? Insurance has been out of, at least I'm talking about the normal people. I'm the drivers that we work with commercial. Next 6 months, I doubt they are going to buy commercialized any kind of insurance, because cars are not just moving. Cars are not just moving, right? It's a very different situation, right? I was just to take your example, right? We were trying to do something with a Zen Drive. They gave me a quote, Pankaj, but we said, boss, we cannot buy this. I'm not going to buy this right now. I cannot have even $1 of extra expense at this point of time. right? So unless it's directly adding anywhere in my bottom line, right, I am not going to buy it. Right, so I think it's going to be very different world. We should be prepared for it. And I think down there we all are doing the same thing. But I am not. I'm very clear that safety. Uh, okay, you can do something, but I'm not sure. This a fear psychosis very high, and especially with the millennials, it's crazy. I have some of my employees in my company, and some of my cousins or my niece nephews, who are like less than 30. I really feel like I'm like a lot more bold because I go to office every day, right? When I talk to them, probably I should get a Paramveer Chakra for that. When I talk to them, these guys are not. They have not come out of their rooms for 3 months. This is the level of craziness going on. So I am absolutely. My take is that at least for any kind of people transport, it is crazy. It is not going to be there for next 6 months, and we have to prepare for it. Don't assume. I have spoken to all our customers, everybody, but nobody's expecting even the like 10 or 15% of their employees will be back till their vaccine is there. So yeah, that's what my absolutely simple assessment of the situation is, that survive till then.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is and thanks for sort of the reality check. Absolutely very important. But when you say sort of people are not buying insurance, are they just going to be driving without insurance? Is that
Yes.
really? Oh wow, okay.
No, when the things are okay, then we have to run behind them to get their insurance done. When things are okay, then when they were getting paid like 50,000-60,000 rupees a month, yeah, it's not a great amount of money, but they were paid still. We had a very stringent checks of because we are also running the show, right? Apart from the software, we are running the full stack where we provide the transport almost like a service, right? So we had to go and run behind these drivers for getting their insurance done, ensure that they are paying the road taxes. They are all fine to run the show without this, unless you go and catch them up and say that you'll not get the trips, you'll not get it. And now I think it's at least for next and even right now I'm pretty sure even organizations will not be that crazy. They will be a lot more for them. It is a lot more important whether that particular cab is sanitized. They will be looking for like some of the driver's temperature is being checked, whether they are able to check whether the driver temperature is checked, all those things. But my take is that even the organization will be a lot more lenient on this aspect of whether you have paid road taxes, you have bought insurance or not.
Interesting. That's yeah. I think with India, that there is always that possibility. 40-50% of people drive without insurance. So yes.
Yeah, right now hardly 10%. Yeah, 5% businesses is running. 5% employees are coming to their offices.
That is true.
Yeah.
And I have to add to what Akash you were saying, right? So I'm based out of New York, so I know exactly what you mean by the whole fear psychosis, because we went through that whole curve of the peak, and now we're bracing for another peak, it seems, right? So it's almost like never ending till we don't get the whole vaccine, and it is globally and readily available. We need to find a different way to definitely make things move, right? So on the people side, for sure, it's going to take a much longer time. On the good side, right, at least from what we are seeing in the industry, there is actually a lot of traction in terms of deliveries are now becoming extremely important for everyone, whether it's from food perspective or getting your Amazon and Walmart and all of those packages as well delivered. And interestingly, what we're seeing is that furniture delivery has shot up by almost 250%. I think everyone's busy trying to make their homes look better or get ready for the whole work from home kind of situation. It's just interesting to see, right? And to that piece, like all of these companies, of course, right, already dealing with razor thin margins, whether it's like quick service restaurants, fast food chains, or even the third party logistics carriers, already their margins were really shot. And somehow they a critical service provider, so they were one of the few who could actually run their businesses, and they're exactly trying to do that, right? A lot of it is around the messaging, where they're asking us to provide that real-time kind of tracking so the customer knows that, hey, look, we're not routing this person through a red zone, and you can get that visibility in real time. They're also doing all these like OTP, right? We know we need to provide security along with the safety aspect. So doing all of those kind of things as well. But a lot of it is geared towards making sure we can continue running the business, right, from the 3PL quick service restaurants. And all of the things that we're being asked to do is all around that, hey, how can I make sure that the customer gets a sense of safety? Because there is, to be honest, there is no way anyone can guarantee anything at any point. So it's mostly around that whole positioning where we're seeing people playing.
Agree.
And I think as you said, Dinesh, I mean, I think COVID has given rise to a lot of, I think, fall in that sense to a lot of delivery, and I'm not sure how the other guys are doing, but there are a lot of goods being transferred. I know people who never used to buy stuff online are buying things online. It's getting delivered online, and because there was an initial fear of people coming to deliver at home. I think some of them have got over it because it's a necessity now. They're scared to get out, so at least somebody's kind of giving everything from groceries to furniture to fish to everything is getting delivered now. So I think COVID has given a lot of boost to that sort of the sector, quite a lot.
And case in point is my mother at 68 in Mumbai, sitting and ordering on Amazon, and I'm getting asked questions on, hey, how do I add this to the cart? It's interesting.
Hey guys, this is Naveen here. I would like to add a few things here. So if you look at the new norm, right? So the new outdoor is basically indoor, right? What that translates to is, as Dinesh mentioned, there will be more demand for food services or delivery services, right? Because people simply don't want to come out, right? And the second thing, I again concur with what Dinesh said. It is the sense of safety, right? So whatever services we are running, right, we have to somehow make our users feel that whatever the services they are using are safe, right? So in our instance, that was the first thing that we had to do it. Like we run a micro mobility service, as you all know. So we had to somehow give them, okay, when was our vehicle sanitized, right? And then what all things we have to do or show to the users that our vehicles have been sanitized, right? And what all things they have to do to keep themselves safe, right? So again, guys, trends are going to change. New outdoor is basically indoor. How the movement of the vehicles are going to happen is absolutely going to change. Again, like for us, pre-COVID, everything was office commute, office commute, office commute, right? So basically, we used to focus more on public transportation to office transportation. Now it has completely changed, right? It is more of now residential to basically errands, right? The first mile connectivity, what you can call it, right? So again, guys, it is, to me, it is more of a sense of safety, and then how you realign your business so that you keep running.
I think in the hi, this is Santosh. The amount of movements have increased. Restaurant business, hyperlocal, etc. They want to have their own brands out. If they have to be categorized as we are safe, drivers have to have the Aragya Setu app installed. The customers have trust in the consumer brands, and they want to directly tie up with the goods industry so that they portray as we are safe now. So that kind of thing is happening. And on the insurance,
so are you talking about Unilever directly delivering to my doorstep and Patanjali doing the same?
They wouldn't directly do it, but they would try to put some brands onto their forum. Like, okay, if I do this, then I'll be like, my driver is his temperature last check is so much. He's using Aragya Setu app. If you give some insights to the end consumer, then they can do it rather than going through some other omni-channel partner where it's not known whether the brand is actually safe or not. So more people would order more from a specific brand, a certain hotel that you are aware of and the standards, rather than ordering from a general aggregator.
Pankaj, to be honest, what you told or mentioned, I see that coming because I have already seen a lot of companies doing that, right? Like for me itself, I have seen a lot of companies which never used to deliver have started delivering, right? Whether it is the pharmacy sector or whether you talk about these organic goods, like we get some stuff from Mantra 24 and things like that. Earlier, they never used to deliver. See, for them, it was all only B2B kind of thing, right? So now with this thing, a lot of these B2B folks are also entering into the B2C segment where they're directly delivering, right? They don't have a very fancy website or an app, but most of them are actually doing it on WhatsApp. Like I recently saw like WhatsApp has started delivering stuff. Like they are trying to connect different vendors and where you can just simply place an order and the vendor comes and delivers it to you. So, and big companies, like if you're talking about HLL and things like that, they have started tying up with the direct home management. Like the other day I was seeing No Broker has also entered into segment where they are delivering for the apartments, right? Earlier for No Broker, it was simply providing services related to brokerage, right? So now they have also entered into the delivery segment because they have all the connects and intels about the apartments and things like that. And they
same
have
thing MyGate is also doing.
Hey,
right.
Naveen, this is a good discussion. I mean, thanks for bringing that up. That brings me to my next question. See, we have both this hyperlocal delivery as well as this long haul movement of trucks, buses, and everything else, right? And we have got Gaurav and Kashyap also on the call. Just trying to understand how some of you have tried to solve for this, ETA problem. Are you able to really provide accuracy in terms of the location, the time taken to reach from one point to the other? I know we've got a lot of these technologies today with maps and everything else. Do you think that this solves the problem, or there is still a lot of scope for improvisation there, especially given our infrastructure today and where we are? Can you share a bit of what innovation is happening in that area and how some of you are trying to solve for some of these problems? And obviously, you might have encountered a lot more problems than I've just mentioned. So just keen to hear some of your thoughts around this. Kashyap or Gaurav, if you can talk a little bit about this.
I'd like to add a few things too. So just call on me after this. Yeah.
Sure. Please do.
Kashyap, do you want to go first?
Sure. So just sort of also adding to the previous discussion. So of all the tracking we do, we sort of look at it as deliveries, visits, and rides. And sort of my observations have been consistent with what everybody else mentioned. Deliveries have gone up. Visits are slightly dipped. It was a huge dip in the first wave, and now things have recovered, but it's still lower than the old normal. And rides are largely, so movement of people is largely, down and
I
up.
have absolutely no clue what's up.
Yeah, and on the delivery side, there was for the long haul. There was similar to visits. There was a dip. There was a drastic dip, and then things started to recover. The last mile delivery, both package delivery as well as hyperlocal, it has been doing very well. So that's the part that's been doing well. In general, I would say ETAs are more accurate and more predictable because there's lesser traffic on the road. And in the delivery business in general, I would say the part where going from point A to point B with current traffic conditions is well solved to the extent that it can be solved by Google Maps and the big maps companies. Lots of investments they've made there. As long as you can make sure that the address is accurate on both sides, the ETA is good. In our case, we need to see the live location and the destination address, and as long as the destination address is good, the ETA is good. The biggest pain point in delivery from an ETA perspective is the sort of first 100 meter and the last 100 meter. So if I'm picking up something, how much time am I going to wait there? How can you model that? How much time am I going to spend trying to find the place and then find parking, or be able to deliver the stuff, do whatever the ritual is I need to do and get out of there? So modeling that has always been the bane of the industry. Whether you take a DoorDash or an Instacart or a Postmates, that's been sort of their problem. The classic way that we have encountered customers solve this problem is you have an initial estimate, you have some way of figuring out at the pickup point, at the delivery point, how much time it's going to take. And then you track the actual that happens quite diligently using the app events. You make sure you know what is the actual that happened and compute an error rate and just continue monitoring that error rate and improve the ETA using that. So improve the end-to-end order ETA using that. So in general, I would say the error rates have gone lower because there is lesser world to deal with. The problem of ETA going for a toss at the place rather than on the road still remains the issue to solve in the industry. And of course, every region is different, every use case is different. Often customer types are different. Vehicle types have an impact on this as well. Not just on the road, but of course there are truck routes and bike routes and so on. But once you get to that place, the way a truck can park versus the way a bike can park is very different in different countries. The way a bike parks in the US is very similar to the way a car parks in the US. But in India, you could park your bike pretty much anywhere in the last mile or at the pickup point. So I would say these are some dimensions of the ETA problem that we encounter. Over to you, Gaurav.
Yeah, thanks, Kashyap. So I think, I agree with what Kashyap is saying, especially that some of this. So firstly, I think our view at Next Billion is location and maps is a very central component to everything around transportation, logistics, e-commerce, deliveries, freight, everything. And exactly to what Kashyap was saying, which is these problems are very unique. So, motorbike drives differently than a truck does, than a car does. How India operates is very different from the US. How addresses are written in some of these countries. Like, for example, in some parts of the Middle East, we hear addresses, people even say, hey, meet me near the tree, near the bus stop. I will take the package from you. So it's a fairly challenging problem, but one which we think drives customer experience and business efficiency in a major way. Our view personally is for exactly these reasons that Google Maps is just absolutely not sufficient. So what we are hoping to build from our perspective is something that's much higher performance at a much better price point and a maps offering that's way more tailored and customized to each business, taking into account exactly the kind of things Kashyap mentioned, which is how do we build something for motorbikes in India? How do we build something for cars in Indonesia? And how do we build something for e-scooters in California? And we think what's necessary is sort of a more decentralized approach. So something that really, how do you merge a particular customer's use case, hyper-local nuances, giving them the control? So like while we're talking about COVID, even if there are containment zones, red zones, green zones, and each of this is very different in different countries across the globe, how do we provide control to the end business to manage this? So if you are a last mile logistics business, how do we give you control to say, hey, my goods still need to be delivered. Here is how I mark these containment zones. And hey, my motorbike drivers in Indonesia, they don't follow rules. They don't, read traffic one-way signs. So how do I incorporate that into my ETA problem? I think this is sort of how we think it's a very fundamental problem. And for the longest period, obviously, companies like Google Maps have done what they can, but we feel there is scope to do something much better. and more tailored to individual businesses. So we have been able to successfully deliver, again, fairly better performance than Google to most of our customers. But yeah, I think our view is an approach that's more tailored, more hyper-local, and more tailored to individual businesses while giving them control is how this problem will really, will move the needle on this problem for businesses.
Yeah, Guru, if I can add just one more insight, Uber actually wrote a very nice engineering blog on it in the Uber Eats context, and we'd actually been doing a bunch of that before that blog, but we definitely rode the wave of hey, we can do that for you. So the one of the tricks we used is, so if you take an order that involves a pickup and a delivery, or involves a pickup followed by 5 deliveries, or you leave the warehouse, you do 6 deliveries. The trick is to sort of break the movement into activity segments. This part was a stop, this part was a walk, this part was a drive, followed by a stop, etc., etc. So that really helps figure out, in case of error rates increasing, how can you correlate that with which sub-segment, which granular segment led to that error, and that seems to be very effective because it especially captures that first 100-meter, last 100-meter unpredictability problem.
And if there are some general,
you might be doing this already, but just sort of adding that that idea works in the real world. We've seen that work very well.
And if these goods are sort of generic, right? Even a swapping also would sort of work. You place your wheels at a position which is closer to the place where the demand is, and then try to move things across. For example, if you want to sell a mobile that has to be ordered, it's brand new and everybody wants to order it, then you position a vehicle around it and then try and make those supply. I think that's sufficient to, in terms of ETA. You wouldn't be able to predict that every sub-hour delivery is possible, but the overall efficiency of the system is sort of met because of the way you're moving things. It makes logistics a little more efficient.
So this is Sriram. Can you guys
hear? Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Sriram. Yes.
We have invested significantly in especially ETA research. So the key to understand that people ETA, I mean, it may sound a little weird, but people ETA is different from goods ETA, because especially when it comes to employee transport, where consistency is the name of the game. Right? It's not about how accurate you were. It's about, can I start every day at 9 and still achieve, reaching at 10 within with an OTA of 95%, rather than, for example, if I were to tell you that today your pickup time is 8:45, tomorrow is 8:53, the day after it's 7:59, and all of them being accurate, right? Doesn't solve the problem, because you need to plan your life around, right? It's like, my favorite thing is, when you say you wake up because you have to go to office, right? It's not that you wake up and then decide to go to office, right? So your lifestyle is designed around. So this is as far as people go. And on the goods, so basically in Dogmatic, we have, since we do both the dispatch side, which is the cabs ETA, and the people ETA, which is so I call it the communicated ETA, right? What you communicate to people is very different from what you design your system for in terms of actual ETAs. Driver would respect that, but not an employee, right? So, and of course, a good amount of time series analysis. We routinely process about 300 million samples a day, right? So that goes into a time series engine, and we are fairly advanced in terms of 5-minute slot ETAs for both the humans as well as goods on a predictive model. Not online, but definitely on predictive model. We can get it down to the more than 95% within 10 minutes.
So hi, Gautam here. To add on to what Kashyap was saying, right? So Kashyap, we at Link, what we started doing is to basically offer something called distribution as a service during this COVID period. So all the distributors in India, they have a problem wherein all their employees have their native voices, right? So what we have started doing is we have taken we have made partnerships with FMCG companies, and we have rented out some warehouses. basically the FMCG companies would directly give the products to us, and we go and deliver it to the retail stores. So what we have seen is, given that we are pretty new entrant, we are just 3 months old in this particular space. One thing what we have seen is whenever we go and deliver a package to a particular retail store, the first thing he or she does is he opens the box and starts checking everything. So there is still a lot of trust that has to be built in between us and the retail store, or the retail store owner, right? So sometimes that, because it's going to be a few cartons that we deliver on every visit, so we are looking at more than say 50 minutes of time going on basically checking whatever we have delivered, right? Even though we have tried various things like transparent packages and semi-transparent packages, everything else, but we see that still they are not. They just want to see the package, and they don't believe in the concept of returning things at this point of time, because they still are not very sure whether we are going to come back again. Okay, so and this is actually eating this, and currently in many cities, what we find is I mean, trucks can operate only for a certain duration of time, right? So it's, for example, in Chennai, it's between 6 to 2 o'clock. That's it. After that, trucks are not allowed to operate for the last 2 weeks. It has been that way. And if every retail store takes up, like, say, 20-25 minutes just for checking the items, we see that that's actually taking more of our valuable time, basically. And how do we model and how do we estimate for this, and how do we basically, there are a lot of times when the truck comes back with goods saying that I was not able to deliver because I hit the deadline.
Very interesting, Gautam. If I can add to that, the loading and unloading time is absolutely critical in the segment that you're talking about in your distribution as a service. So I recently discovered, so in our Europe market, we have one customer in France, one in Netherlands in that segment, and apparently it's very normal in Europe to charge a surcharge for loading and unloading time. So there are allocated parking spots for the truck, and once you park there, timer starts. And if you exceed your time to load or unload, then the surcharge is really high. So that makes it sort of imperative that, so we sort of set up geofences at these places, and that automatically tracks the arrival and exit, and therefore the duration inside the fence. Of course, everyone wants a quick load time and unload time, but there is a direct financial consequence to that in the Europe market, which I thought was interesting.
This very interesting trivia what we found in that, right? Adding on to what you said, for example, warehouses in India in remote locations doesn't have specified entry points. For example, let's say a kilometer big warehouse, and if you don't properly have your entry point specified in there, your whole of the ETA goes at least half an hour off, and there'll be a person coming there. It's a wastage of human resources time, so on and so forth. So we had to do modeling around it to figure out which is the proper entry point to the warehouse. So one interesting thing what we did was we took our IoT electronics based device through the data of the GPS whether the truck is being unloaded or loaded, because there is a certain variations while the truck is getting unloaded. We use this data to predict its previous path and figure out which is the loading point, which is the entry point to that particular warehouse. Thought I'd bring it up. So this is a bigger challenge in the trucking eco space, right? Like the data is absolutely noisy. Like at most of the time, Indian drivers use feature phones, for example, and we don't get data if they don't use driver's app. If the truck doesn't have GPS, we'll have to rely on a lot of the other surrounding data, toll data, a lot of other noisy data to clean the data, make sure that the location or ETA can be predicted.
So one thing what we went about doing is we had some we do. I'm sorry. Hello. Yeah. So one thing. Yeah. So one thing what we went about doing was like we have this notion of bike drivers as well. So we use these bike drivers to stand and stand with the retailers and kind of spend the time and do the due diligence and stay there till the retailer is really happy about it, wherein the truck driver goes ahead with his business basically. Ideally, Kashyap, it's not about the money that goes in, it's about the time over here, because honestly speaking, we don't have 24 hours a day to do business here. It's like 8 hours or 7 hours that we have. So as soon as the clock strikes 6, you will see a horde of truck drivers running away from the warehouse and start delivering. But things are pretty strict, wherein if you don't close shop by 2 o'clock, then your vehicle is basically seized, and you'll have to wait for 1 month to get the vehicle back. So some kind of modeling over there around that would be really, really helpful. So we were looking at whether by giving this data, if so one of the main cost, I think as a provider of trucking service, as a provider of delivery as a service or a distribution as a service, right? One thing what we see is, yes, there is a fixed loading and unloading time, that what we call it as fixed cost, depending upon the basically charge the customer or not, or depending upon the relation. But then apart from it, I think this the onus of the trust factor that creeps in, and the time that it takes for us to kind of and the guy is a repeat customer guy, and he does this almost with every other delivery person who comes to his shop. I think that factor plays a role, plays a very big role for us to understand whether it is really worth for us to send a high value person to deliver some items to him, or should we basically have somebody accompanying the truck driver and then make him stand and do all the due diligence and get back. So we have tried various options, but some are like pretty naive, some use technology, but I think some solutions around it would be like really useful to a lot of truck delivery companies.
I have a question for Tejasvi actually. Thanks, Gautam. I think it was one of your Blackbuck colleagues who told me, are you guys using those GPS locks where when unloading or loading, you're going to unlock and lock, and at that point it geotags and figures things out? Was that Blackbuck or?
It would be, we do use one of those. So idea is to sure how much I finished the sentence on the last one. So idea is, so we do have GPS devices which continuously track vehicle movement. So what we observe is at the time of loading and unloading, the variations of the GPS is very specific. We could actually detect whether the truck is getting loaded or unloaded because of that. So it's based on a lot of data per se. We have data of a lot of unloading and unloading. And in the scenario, how do we make sure that we learn that data is during loading time? Some of our corporate business, we have our guys on the ground, so we ask them to mark that specific point and make sure that we sync that data along with the GPS data which is available, so that then we could reduce the error rates of it. So the loading has become fair. We still haven't completely cracked it, but loading at this point of time, we say we are almost there.
Guru, I'm sure you want to move on. Just very quickly, two things that I wanted to add, right? In addition to what everyone was saying, I feel there are two aspects which also play an important role in the whole ETA conversation, right? One is the whole geocoding piece, like Gaurav, you were mentioning. Like in Middle East, there is no zip code concept. So it's like behind Lulu or come to this particular street corner. I think that plays an important role in terms of figuring out where to go, because all ETAs for that customer and the following customers, everything are dictated by that that is one problem that we are definitely looking at really closely to solve in multiple different ways, because that automatically gives more predictability to the customers, not just to the customer we're delivering, even all the entire route that is created for the driver for the entire day. And the second piece, I think, Kashyap, like you mentioned, right, the whole driver concept, like, because we are facing the same thing in Canada, where there are not just a waiting time, but there is like a fuel surcharge. There is a zone surcharge based on whether they're in which part of Vancouver or which part of Toronto they're delivering to. There's like all kinds of year and months concepts in terms of pricing. And on top of that, there is a lot of inputs that is needed from the driver. So the second piece that I feel is also important is the driver compliance analytics piece, because if the drivers end up just taking a break and not really adhering to the right kind of inputs that they need to provide to the system, which directly ties to the ETAs, then that becomes a real big challenge, because then you need to get into fights with customers that, hey, no, we didn't really have any waiting time here, and all of that. So we're focusing a lot on the driver compliance and analytics as well, where along with geofencing and all of those kind of concepts, how can we quickly identify what is the real state as compared to what drivers are telling us as input. So thank you, Niru.
Thank you, Dinesh. I'll go. We have got about 8 minutes left. I'll go to the last question, and probably I'll start with Jaggi here. So, what I've observed and what I've listened so far is that there is a lot of data exchange that's happening in terms of either locations or ETA, or using some AI and ML models and so on. Jaggi, question to you is, and I would definitely want everyone in the panel to give your answer on this. What kind of data exchange can we create or expose, so that everyone is able to leverage that data to be able to get to better accuracies in terms of whatever they are doing? It could be ETA, or it could be anything else. Does it make sense? For example, when I was talking to Tejasvi earlier on in the day, he was talking about how do we make toll roads data available. So, Jaggi, what do you think about this? Does it make sense to create some kind of a data exchange mart through which you will be able to share and exchange data, which will help you be better at your business?
Absolutely. Yeah, this has been a fascinating conversation. I touched many pieces. I'm currently in England, stuck here due to COVID. Luckily, my wife is here, but I haven't stepped into a store yet because Amazon delivers on time. I have a local grocery delivery. I know Big Basket does a great job when I was in India, but ultimately cross-border and B2C commerce is getting a boost. Our main problem is supply, not demand. The demand is huge, but some of the things we are facing is touches upon the data issue. Right now, our estimated delivery date algorithms are thrown a curveball because there's not enough data and things are fluctuating wildly. Geolocation is very important. We use Google APIs for getting addresses and so on, but if AWS has some good APIs for geolocation, address checking, and so on, we'd like to use that. We would also like to use some of your, and we are heavy users of your ML system, but if you have other APIs that can help us with geolocation, with graphing, routing, again, we've built all these things, but you may have better APIs for that. And the other important thing is really any tools that we can have to predict better. Okay, so again, ultimately, B2C e-commerce is here to stay because of COVID, and also because it's much more convenient for me to get my groceries and other things delivered on time. But any APIs that Amazon can give us, AWS can give us, we would like to use that. Yeah. Our demand has been great. Everyone wants to ship, especially Indian shippers. So we have been working around by routing around red zones, green zones, and so on with the data we are getting, but not enough to make it more efficient.
But just to kind of on that question of data exchange, right? While I think a lot of us in this space, whether it's on logistics or people movement, we have trucks, we have bus, we have cars, in just this panel, we have from cycles to bikes to trucks to buses to everything. We are moving everything in and around just in this, 10, 12 member panel. And I think, and we have people who are largely in India, but we have also colleagues who are, operating internationally. I think it'll be a good, interesting experiment to see if we can create this data exchange, especially at least which are common information which can be shared between all of us. Where it could be routing information, it could be ETA information, it could be and there's a lot of I think latent knowledge about how individuals and a lot of things. What you guys said, I'm sure that all of us as respective CTOs or VPs or co-founders or CEOs would have said, oh, we are also doing this probably in a slightly different fashion, right? There is some benefit, some advantages we are getting out of it. So it'll be an interesting take to see if we can understand what kind of data can be built out as a common store, which all of us can tap into. It may not be, of course, transactional information, it may not be anything, just about, generic set of data which we can share among all of us, which can help us improve our own individual products, take that to the next level by looking at for other inputs, for example, right? We were talking a lot about ETA. For us, in the case of bus, the ETA is a little different story, right? We do use and we are trying to kind of leverage that further, but we, for the longest time, have been using Google Maps API. But Google Maps routing is pretty much made for cars, not for buses. And there are a lot of other problems, and I kind of completely agree with what Gaurav was saying, that it does not cater to all the requirements, right? So I think this data exchange is a good idea. In fact, we've had an internal pitch from my data engineering guy to probably create an internal data bank, at least within our group companies. We have travel as part of our family, like MetroGo, Vivo, Redbus, Pitla, all of that. To see if we can have certain things created out. It is still in some discussion stage internally. And the idea was to kind of further extend this outside once we have a sense of what we would want to do. But Bala, I think it's a very good question. I think we should probably think about that very seriously.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Anup. So is it okay for everyone to just extend it by 10 minutes, just in the interest of ensuring that we get a response from everyone else? Are you okay to just extend this by 10 minutes and we'll close by 5:10? Is that okay? 5:10 India time?
Sriram, this is Sriram. So I have a hard stop at 5. I have a call that I'm expecting. So I'll hang on till my con call gets up. Right? Sorry about that. So I have a hard stop at 5.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sriram. So Prashant and Santosh, do you want to say anything about data exchange, or do you have any other views to share? What would you think about this? Yeah.
Good. Thanks. Good. Yes. Hi guys. So we operate in a space where we connect e-commerce companies primarily with logistics partners via tech integrations, and we work with a lot of logistics partners. We work with 138 logistics partners, connecting them with e-commerce companies primarily in India. So in terms of ETAs, we didn't use Google APIs ever, but we have been using the logistics data that we get from third-party logistics partners, and also tracking the shipment movement. So we also give an estimated delivery date to the e-commerce companies to be shown to their end users. So for that, we have been using the data which is given to us by the logistics partners in terms of the shipment to hub movement and the time a shipment takes to stay in a particular hub. And that has worked really well for us. We are able to get an accuracy of 90% plus on the EDDs that we predict. Along with that, we built a delay prediction platform on top of this, where whenever we see a flag that the shipment is not moving as expected, we flag it to the logistics teams of the e-commerce companies, and that has worked out well for us in terms of giving the EDDs to the e-commerce companies. In terms of the entire uptake, so our primary customers are e-commerce companies. So in India, initially we saw a dip in March, April time, but post that we have seen a lot of companies coming online, which is, I think, a general trend that everyone has seen. We have seen the onboardings that we are doing right now are far higher than all the onboardings that we have done at any moment of time in the last 4 years of our existence. So seeing many offline companies coming online and trying to get a logistics management system in place to get the deliveries, either it is in hyperlocal space or intracity or intercity space. We have been operating in the Middle East area for some time. Address is a challenge there. We kind of have solved it somehow, working closely with the courier partners there, because it was a problem that existed for ages for the courier. So that has been evolving. But yeah, in terms of the volumes, while the India volumes were dipping after March, April, around March, April, we saw uptick in the volumes in the Middle East geography. So we have seen a growth of entire e-commerce directly jumping to 2.5x of what it was before the COVID times. And like Middle East is really growing fast. Like people are still ordering a lot online, even after everything opens up there. Right now, everything is back to normal there, but still people are ordering and there is a high peak.
Thank you, Prashant. Santosh?
Santosh, you're on mute. For that. One of the things I wanted to mention about the batch delivery, right? So there are too many waypoints to be considered before we optimize a route. Suppose you want to make 1,000 deliveries and you have like 50 drivers, each one of them can travel this amount of distance, this time, this capacity. And then using all those network constraints to arrive at certain routes which are optimal for people to do the drive. Google Maps is short in that way. I mean, it allows you only 100 waypoints. You can't do much. So you need to cache that and then build your own mapping system. And you take the cached value to figure out whether this is the right ETA and then go and then do the deliveries. I think one of the RSVP items when I attended this was to think of a domain-specific language and data sharing platform that can be built upon, because as the logistics is going forward, I mean, more of partnerships will evolve. There will be a specific set of players who will play first mile, middle mile, last mile, right? And there is a need. I mean, when we go for all the API integrations with customers, generally for somebody it will be a shipment manifest. For the other person, it's an ASN. For the there is no consistency in naming and the data models that are being used. So open source or some format, something like what the GS1 has done for parcels and packing. We should think of having a common system where we can share data and then be beneficial to each other with respect to the ETS.
Yes, we want to go next on data exchange.
My point was more around how we can leverage data between entities, right? For example, Anup was talking about having data between their internal to their organization. And I see a lot of relevant data. For example, hyperlocal companies have a lot of relevant data. Like truck logistic companies, we have a lot of relevant data. Everybody have their own data models which optimizes for their business needs. But the data is similar, or rather same. It's the same set of data or surrounding set of data. We should, in my mind, we should think of a scenario where not using the transaction data, which is around simpler data, which is flowing into the system, can be leveraged by both the parties and of the same product. I think Santosh's idea was nice. It's about creating some form of a format by which data can be pushed to a data lake, if I can think of that, where people can access to the data. But very early in that process, good to start discussion somewhere.
Thank you.
I mean, an exchange can just not work for only these purposes, but even for, I mean, there is enough and more analysts out there who are looking for certain information. And today, analysts reach out to probably all of us or to our marketing to understand what is the data to get those reports together. What if think of a scenario where they can send a mail out, they are given certain obfuscated data store where they can run the analysis without having any information of what they're listening, but they get their analysis out. That is what we are looking at internally here. But yeah, I think it's good. It's something worth discussing further. I mean, even outside this agenda.
Yeah, so on that, just one piece of information to add there, if you guys followed the history of OpenStreetMaps, of course, long history, but there was a time when Mapbox was very active in influencing that community. There was never a strong backbone to OpenStreetMap, so Mapbox people kind of became the backbone, but then that became totally one company, commercial. Then Uber became a backbone. They hired a bunch of OpenStreetMap people into Uber Maps, and that became proprietary. So Facebook has been going around trying to sort of take up the OpenStreetMap initiative and own that and build a conglomerate and so on. And I know that, so I was personally involved in a meeting with Facebook at delivery office in New Delhi couple of years ago with the same idea that had come up. Nothing came of that, but there was high interest. And what was ironic at the time was delivery itself was not open to participating in that data network. But the quasi Facebook people were trying to open up, the whole map data.
One thing, Kashyap, is that the problem, and I'm telling you, all of us will kind of go back and think about this. Who owns this data? Who's the owner of this? How do we protect our interests and stuff like that? And that's where I think that's an interesting aspect. That's an interesting tech aspect which can come into this as well. How do we kind of ensure that nobody's individual data protection is kind of lost out there? At the same time, we are having look at this as an information source, how we can tap and utilize it as per needs for individuals of the individual needs of the companies.
Yeah.
Pankaj, Naveen, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I mean, it's a certainly sort of having a data exchange sounds like a very valuable idea from a technology and technology development perspective. But I agree, sort of, for us particularly, we are a SaaS service provider. So, in some ways, all the data we have gobs and gobs of data sitting with us, but all of that data belongs in some ways to our customers, right? And in some ways, any such initiative has to involve the rightful owner of data in some ways. That's what makes it even more challenging and complicated in some ways.
Okay. Naveen, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes. See, it is very good that we all are talking about sharing our data, keeping or creating a data lake where everyone can contribute. But I think we should take one step back here. By one step back, what I mean is, see, everyone whoever is there on this panel, right, pretty much uses a IoT device or things like that to track where the vehicles are, right? So before we even get into the storage and sharing of the data, we have to see how we can standardize this data, right? So can we all contribute to say, okay, this is the stack, or this is how the data is going to flow from our different IoT devices, because that is the starting point for any kind of streamlining process when it comes to data, right? We have to ensure that the way the data is coming, it is put in a format that it can be consumed by everyone, right? So I think the focus should be more on first standardizing the platform itself from where the data is coming in, right? So like in AWS also, I know like you guys are doing or putting a lot of efforts where you are creating a process to onboard your IoT devices and blah, 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 things like that, right? But the key thing or the challenges that we have seen when we were getting these IoT devices from different vendors is the protocols are different, the way the data comes in is different, and then you write up or end up spending a lot of time to standardize or put it in a format so that it can be usable by your standard engines, right? Whether it could be a ML engine or AI engine or whatever it is, right? So that was the time when we decided, okay, let's develop something where we try to come up with a middleware layer, which is a standard protocol. And then we are trying to propagate that particular layer across different areas. So we being in a mobility sector, we are trying to do the same thing for the batteries. We are trying to do the same thing for our motor controllers. We are trying to do the same thing for our IoT. And definitely, like if whoever is interested, I would like to collaborate with them and try to create this standard, because without the standards, it is never going to be successful, to be honest.
Yeah, Naveen, that's a great point. Sort of, having standardized formats may not be the data itself being shared, but at least such formats potentially, even libraries to work with that data and so on. I think could be a great toolkit that can evolve and could be used sort of, in a more open source fashion. That's a terrific idea.
Right, absolutely. Because see, once you have the standard format, next thing is we can get into area where people can actually share these models, because the data has been standardized. Now people can leverage like whatever effort or the time we all have put in to come up with some models. People can then share those models. Otherwise, what happens is you take a model from someone, you try to keep tweaking it so that it will work for your scenario, because your data is not in that fashion, something else, you're not capturing some important information, things like that. So before we even think about having or sharing of the data, we have to think about how we standardize these information that is flowing in and out.
Hey, thanks, Naveen. So I think we are at 5:12, and Kashyap, first of all, thanks a lot for you who have stayed up through your very early morning time. I think we had some very good discussion. Thanks everyone for being very participative in this. Some of the key themes and takeaways for me was about how is the safety going to be looked at, how is the insurance industry going to look at safety, and how user friendly are they going to become, and then how are we going to solve for the ETA problem. Each one had their own perspective, right from GPS lock, unlock to everything else. And finally, about data exchange, how do we standardize on data? So these were the three key takeaways for me. Please do fill in the survey. Hope it was valuable use of your time. And when you get the Slack invite, please do join Slack, and let's keep this discussion going forward. Thanks again, everyone. Really appreciate you extending time beyond 5 p.m. India time. Really appreciate this conversation.